The Second World War was the largest and most destructive conflict in human history. Between 1939 and 1945, fighting spread across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific Ocean. Entire cities were reduced to rubble. Millions of soldiers and civilians lost their lives. Nations rose, fell, and fought for survival. Yet within this global conflict, a handful of battles altered the course of history more than any others. Some prevented invasions before they could begin. Some shattered the military strength of once dominant powers. Others opened the road to victory and hastened the end of the war. These are 5 battles that changed the course of World War II, and with it, the modern world. The Battle of Britain. By the summer of 1940, Nazi Germany appeared unstoppable. In less than a year, Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France had fallen under German control. Only Britain remained unconquered in Western Europe. For Adolf Hitler, defeating Britain was the next step toward securing dominance over the continent. Before an invasion could take place, however, Germany needed control of the skies. The task fell to the Luftwaffe. Beginning in July 1940, German aircraft launched sustained attacks against Britain's airfields, radar stations, aircraft factories, and ports. The objective was clear: destroy the Royal Air Force and eliminate Britain's ability to defend itself. The odds heavily favored Germany. The Luftwaffe possessed greater numbers of aircraft and had gained valuable combat experience during earlier campaigns across Europe. Britain, however, possessed an advantage that proved decisive. An integrated air defense system combined radar, ground observers, radio communications, and centralized command centers. Rather than sending fighters into the air at random, British commanders could direct squadrons precisely where they were needed, conserving both aircraft and experienced pilots. As the campaign continued, Germany shifted its attention from military targets to Britain's cities. London endured repeated bombing raids during what became known as the Blitz. Fires consumed entire neighborhoods, historic buildings were destroyed, and thousands of civilians were killed or injured. Despite the destruction, British industry continued producing aircraft, and RAF squadrons remained in the fight. By October 1940, Germany had failed to gain air superiority. Without control of the skies, Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain, could not proceed. For the first time in the war, Nazi Germany had failed to achieve one of its principal strategic objectives. Britain remained free, preserving a base from which Allied forces would later launch the liberation of Western Europe. Reflecting on the courage of Britain's fighter pilots, Prime Minister Winston Churchill delivered words that have endured for generations. "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." The Battle of Midway. 6 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan stood at the height of its military power. Its navy had swept across the Pacific, capturing territories from Southeast Asia to the Central Pacific. American forces remained on the defensive, and many believed Japan's advance would continue unchecked. The next objective was Midway Atoll, a small but strategically important American outpost located roughly halfway between Asia and North America. Japanese planners expected the attack to draw the remaining American aircraft carriers into battle, where they could be destroyed. What they did not know was that American codebreakers had deciphered critical portions of Japan's naval communications. The United States knew the attack was coming. On the morning of June 4, 1942, Japanese aircraft bombed Midway, while carrier strike groups searched for the American fleet. Early American attacks achieved little and suffered devastating losses. Torpedo squadrons pressed home their attacks without adequate fighter protection. Many aircraft were shot down before reaching their targets, and numerous crews never returned. Their sacrifice, however, created an unexpected opportunity. Japanese fighter aircraft had descended to engage the low-flying torpedo bombers, leaving the airspace above the fleet temporarily vulnerable. Late that morning, American dive bombers arrived almost unopposed. Within a matter of minutes, 3 Japanese fleet carriers were struck repeatedly and set ablaze. A 4th carrier was sunk later that day. The Imperial Japanese Navy had lost 4 frontline aircraft carriers, hundreds of aircraft, and many of its most experienced naval aviators, losses that could not be quickly replaced. American losses were significant, including the carrier USS Yorktown, but the strategic balance of the Pacific had changed. From Midway onward, Japan largely fought on the defensive, while the United States steadily expanded its offensive operations across the Pacific. Many military historians regard Midway as the decisive turning point of the Pacific War. The Battle of Stalingrad. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, it launched the largest military campaign in history. A year later, German forces advanced toward the city of Stalingrad on the western bank of the Volga River. The city was an important industrial center and controlled access to vital transportation routes. Its name also carried immense symbolic importance because it honored Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. Hitler ordered that the city be captured. The Soviet Union ordered that it be held at any cost. German bombing transformed much of Stalingrad into ruins. Ironically, the destruction favored the defenders. Collapsed factories, shattered apartment buildings, and broken streets created a maze of defensive positions where tanks and artillery lost much of their advantage. The battle became one of relentless close-quarters combat. Soldiers fought for individual buildings, stairwells, and factory floors. Control of a single structure could change hands several times in one day. As winter approached, the Soviet High Command launched Operation Uranus. Rather than attacking the strongest German positions inside the city, Soviet forces struck weaker Axis units guarding the flanks. The offensive achieved complete surprise. German Sixth Army found itself surrounded. Hitler refused to authorize a withdrawal, believing the army could hold its position until relief arrived. That relief never came. Food, ammunition, fuel, and medical supplies steadily disappeared. Freezing temperatures and disease claimed thousands more lives as Soviet forces tightened the encirclement. On February 2, 1943, the remaining German forces surrendered. The Battle of Stalingrad had become one of the deadliest battles ever fought. Although casualty estimates vary, well over 1 million soldiers and civilians were killed, wounded, or captured during the campaign. More importantly, Germany had suffered an irreversible strategic defeat. From Stalingrad onward, the Red Army seized the initiative, beginning the long advance that would eventually end in Berlin. The Normandy landings. Before dawn on June 6, 1944, one of history's greatest military operations began. More than 156,000 Allied soldiers crossed the English Channel to begin the liberation of Nazi-occupied Western Europe. Operation Overlord required years of planning and unprecedented cooperation between the United States, Britain, Canada, and numerous Allied nations. In the early hours of the invasion, airborne divisions parachuted behind German lines to seize bridges, disrupt communications, and delay reinforcements. Soon afterward, thousands of landing craft approached 5 beaches along the Normandy coast: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, Sword. Each presented unique challenges. At Omaha Beach, strong currents, difficult terrain, and heavily fortified German defenses produced some of the fiercest fighting of the entire invasion. Many landing craft came under intense machine gun and artillery fire before their ramps even opened. Despite severe casualties, small groups of Allied soldiers pushed inland, clearing bunkers and creating openings through the German defenses. By nightfall, every invasion beach remained in Allied hands. In the weeks that followed, Allied engineers constructed temporary harbors, repaired roads, and moved hundreds of thousands of soldiers, vehicles, fuel, and supplies into France. The successful invasion established the long-awaited Western Front. Germany now faced major offensives from both east and west, stretching its military beyond recovery. Less than 11 months later, Nazi Germany surrendered. The Normandy landings remain the largest amphibious invasion ever conducted, and one of history's greatest demonstrations of multinational planning, coordination, and courage. The Battle of the Bulge. By December 1944, Allied armies had liberated much of Western Europe. Many believed Germany was nearing defeat. Hitler sought to reverse the situation with one final offensive. Under the cover of poor winter weather, more than 200,000 German troops advanced through the Ardennes forest in Belgium and Luxembourg. Their objective was ambitious: break through Allied lines, capture the vital port of Antwerp, separate British and American armies, force the Western Allies into negotiating peace. The surprise attack created a large bulge in the Allied front, giving the battle its enduring name. During the opening days, German armored columns made rapid gains while snow, fog, and cloud cover limited Allied air support. One of the battle's defining moments unfolded around the Belgian town of Bastogne. There, American troops, most notably elements of the 101st Airborne Division and attached units, held the crossroads despite freezing temperatures, shortages of food and medical supplies, and constant artillery bombardment. When German commanders demanded their surrender, Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe issued his now famous reply, "Nuts!" As the weather improved, Allied aircraft returned to the skies, attacking German supply lines and armored formations. Meanwhile, General George Patton's Third Army advanced north, relieving the defenders at Bastogne and helping blunt the offensive. By late January 1945, the German attack had failed. The offensive consumed irreplaceable tanks, fuel, aircraft, and experienced soldiers that Germany could no longer afford to lose. It would be Hitler's final major offensive on the Western Front. From that point onward, Allied armies advanced steadily into Germany itself. The collapse of the Third Reich was only months away. These 5 battles were fought in different landscapes and under vastly different conditions. Over the skies of Britain, across the waters of the Pacific, among the shattered ruins of Stalingrad, along the beaches of Normandy, and through the snow-covered forests of the Ardennes, each battle marked a turning point. Together they reshaped the balance of power, determined the outcome of the Second World War, and influenced the political landscape of the modern era. Their legacy is preserved not only in military history, but in the freedoms, alliances, and nations that emerged from the conflict. Understanding these battles is more than remembering the past. It is understanding how history itself was changed.